So hello everybody and welcome to Handmade Chelsea Online, a live exhibitor session. This afternoon we are joined by Wytske Lazenby and we're going to be talking the making of a silver heirloom. We're joined with her this morning, and Wytske is going to be talking about her inspiration, which led to making of a beautiful miniature carousel candle holder. And it's actually set with 12 birthstones, which is beautiful. So there's one month for everybody in there. She'll also explain some of her processes used in the making of it, and like the candle or the cake. So I'm very intrigued. So Wytske, I'm going to pass straight over to you, and welcome to Handmade Chelsea Online.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you everybody for coming or for being here, even though I don't think I can see you. So today I'd like to talk about the small candle holder, the birthstone candle holder. And what I'm going to do with you is share my screen with you so I can show you some pictures closer up, because if I just hold it in my hand, it won't be very clear. So I will share my screen and we will go from there. Oh. Sorry about this. There we go. Right. So this is what I'm going to talk about. This is the carousel I made. But before I wanted to show you the carousel, I thought I would just show you a couple of pictures of my workshop, because the connection at the workshop for Zoom isn't very good. And so I'm at home at the moment. Here is a picture of the small room in my workshop. And you can see there's quite a lot of benches here. There's 6 benches, and that is because the workshop, which I run with my colleague Debbie, we have 2 days a week, we run classes for members. And so we have about between 24 and 28 members who come most weeks, except it's COVID, so they're not coming so much. And then we have, this is the big room, and that's where big work takes place. Now, because we have members, we like to occasionally offer them a sort of optional project, and the brief was to make a candle holder for a celebration cake. And I'm always up for a challenge, so I thought I would do something myself as well. And then you start thinking about what you would make, and I thought, well, what shall I do? I thought I'd like to include some birthstones, and of course then you have to try and work out how to do that. So I did some research and came across a Gregorian birthstone poem from about 1870 and decided to use that as a sort of base for it. Then I had to design it, and I do most of the designing in my head, and I played around a bit, and then, played around in my head, and then decided to make a little carousel. So this is the idea I had. This is the carousel sketch. Now, I'm not very good at drawing, as you can probably see, and I tend to work things out in my head rather than on paper. So this is the only sketch I did from which I produced this little carousel. So you can see it's probably about 8 centimeters, 7-8 centimeters tall. It is mostly silver, but you can see there's 18-karat gold in the chains. And the stones are a double bezel set, which means that they don't have a back to them. So the light can catch them quite nicely from front to back. The horses have been cut out with a piercing saw. They are probably about 12 millimeters by 15, which is not very big. And then I made the bridles and out of wire, the saddles and the tails, and they were soldered on. But I'd like you to show a couple of videos. The bottom of the carousel, you can see, has a texture on it, and so does the top rim. First, I'd like to show you the texture at the bottom, and that has been done with a rolling mill. And I will show you a little video now.
What I'm going to show you now is how to get a pattern on a piece of metal. So I've got a bit of copper, which is annealed, so it's slightly softer. And I have a bit of mesh wire here. You could also use fabric or anything you like, embossed paper. I put this in between some plain paper, and the plain paper protects the roller. So we pick it up and we're now going to take it to the roller and we're going to put it through. So I'm going to place it between the two rollers and turn the handle and slowly let it come out the other side. And then we take the paper off and the metal off, and you can see it has now a nice texture on it.
This is the picture of the piece of metal I put through the rollers. You can see the detail quite well now. And it's not the same pattern as I used on the carousel, but it is an example, and you can see how you can achieve that sort of result. So we go back to the carousel and we'll have a quick look at the top edge. Now the top edge is done with a different process to the bottom. It's done by a process called etching, and I needed to etch that because I needed to make sure that it fitted all the way around and the pattern matched up. And so I have another little video to show you how this is done.
To start with, you have to print your pattern onto a piece of paper, the right size, and you then have to transfer that pattern to some P&P paper. P&P paper is used for printing circuit boards. Once you've got the P&P paper printed, you can just about see the little black pattern. You need to transfer it onto your metal. So you take a piece of metal and it has to be very, very clean. So we run it under the tap and you will see that the water doesn't stay on the metal all over, so it means it's quite greasy. So we clean it with a bit of pumice powder and we rub it all over. Until we get it nice and clean. And the way to test it is to run it under the water again. And the water should just be a nice film on it, so there's no bits. We put it back and we take the tweezers and we take the P&P paper and we put it with the ink facing down onto the copper or silver. You put it on a piece of paper and we put it on the hot plate and we roll it with a small roller. And what we're trying to do is to transfer the pattern. And once the pattern starts to look slightly raised, it will have transferred. It's not foolproof, so you might have to do this more than once if it doesn't work the first time. So a little bit more. If you do too much, it'll get blurry, and that won't do the job either. So when we think it's done, we quickly put it in cold water, and we take it out, and we peel off the paper, and there you go. Now, this is quite interesting because you can see I've let it go a little bit too long, and it's all gone blurry. If I show you the one I did earlier, which has come out much, much better. So I would take this all off again and redo it. It's a matter of minutes, so it doesn't really matter. So when you've got a good pattern like this, you then have to cover up the back because you don't want to etch the back. So what's going to happen is the chemical is going to eat away everything which hasn't got any ink on it. So once you've covered the back up, and you made sure the edges are sealed, for which I use a nail pen. You can then put it in the ferric chloride. Normally the ferric chloride would be heated and it takes a little while. So I'll show you one I've done before. So this might be a bit difficult to see, but I'll take a photo of it so you can have a better look at it. So the pattern has transferred quite well on the silver. the clock face in the middle has been engraved on by an engraver, not by myself. So that's basically very quickly explained how you do etching on either copper or brass or silver.
So here's the little clock face with the etching round in the corners. And you can see from the ruler by the side that it's quite small. So it's a useful process to know. So you can see how it's put together more or less now. So it's made in two parts. The top half comes off together with the horses and the chains. That's all one piece, and it can actually swivel round. But I have made it now, and somehow you have to keep it in something, because you can't just let it sit round all the time. You might want to put it away. So I had to think of how to keep it in something. So, and also I have candles to put in, and of course I have a booklet with the poem. So I got together with a friend of mine who's a furniture maker, and between us we designed this little rosewood box, and I made the silver fittings to put it in, and it has a little drawer in it and a little shelf. So the drawer is for the candles, and the little shelf you can put it on. But the poem had to be, I wanted to print the poem, and I found a printer just south of Hereford called Barrington Press, and I went to see them and asked if they could do something very, very small. And they have a huge collection of letter prints, letter fonts. And so we discussed it, and we came up with a very small little booklet, which is probably only about 2 by 3 centimeters. And each page has a month and the little poem which belongs to that stone. So I'm not sure if you can see it, but this particular month is August, and it wears sardonyx, and sardonyx is a stone which was used for signet rings, where they engraved them. So now I have the poem and the box, the printed booklet, the box, and the carousel. So now I'd like to show you the whole thing together, a little video again. Sorry, hang on, slight hiccup.
So here's the box. It's a rosewood box with silver fittings. And to open it, you turn the little handle down on this side. And there you go. There it is. So now we can take it out of the box. We can slide it slightly forward. So you can display it if you want, like this. And then we can take it out. And there you go. So it swivels quite nicely, so you can turn it round. It makes all those 12 birthstones move and dangle and catch the light. And the horses underneath with their gold bridles and tails and saddles. Now in this little drawer here is the little book, which is printed by Barrington Press, and that has the birthstone poem in it. So this is hand printed with great care, and that shows you each page has a month and mentions the stone for that month with a little poem. It was first published in 1870, and so therefore the poem is quite old-fashioned, but this is rather nice in a way. In the little drawer, we have 12 candles, one for each month. And it also has a small silver spike, which you can put in the cake. So you can then place the carousel over the top of it. And then we put the candle in the top, put the whole thing on a cake, and light the candle.
So I will stop sharing the screen now, and I hope you have enjoyed it. I will now show you the candle on the cake. Stop sharing, exit, exit. Sorry. Right, okay. And there's the finished project. A little bit difficult to see, perhaps. Perhaps this is better. You can see it dangling. This, of course, this zoom perhaps doesn't do it justice. I get a much better look at it than you do on this picture. So I'd like to hand you over to Alice, and hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please let me have some.
Well, thank you. That's been really, really lovely. It's so interesting to see, you know, the work that goes into it. But I find with your work in particular, it's that fine detail that you have from the carousel to then the watering cans to the musical stand, you know, that you have with us on the online shop. How important is that detail, that meticulous detail for you?
That is all important. It's very easy to make something which is sort of perhaps not quite finished enough. It's really difficult to make something to a very high standard, and I think that makes a difference when you look at something. And I feel that there's an awful lot of stuff around now which is perhaps you know, is manufactured somewhere abroad, perhaps, which is not at a very high standard. And there's too much of it. And I think it would be nice for people to try and value things which are of a higher quality. And you don't need lots of stuff. So I think suggest that people surround themselves with fewer but more lovely things, because you get huge pleasure from it. And something like this will hopefully be passed down generations, which yeah, would be very nice, I think.
So we've got a lot of comments coming in saying that quite rightly that your carousel is beautiful there. I can see that we've just got a quick technical question, if we may. And I've got a question here. How long did you actually put the silver sheet in the ferric chloride? So that's one of the questions. Now, if that's a trade secret, that's absolutely
no, it's not
but
secret
it's nice
at all.
to have any quizzes.
There's no secret at all. There isn't a fast rule about that. You have to test it. So you put it in, depends a bit, because you heat the ferric chloride up. It speeds up the process a bit. But it's a very fine line between leaving it in long enough so you get a texture, and leaving it in too long where the ink starts lifting off, and of course then ruins your etching. So it's not, yeah, it's a low-tech etching process. There are much more highly technical ones which are much more foolproof, but this for a small workshop, this works quite well. But you do have to sort of, you take it out, you rinse it, you brush it with a feather very gently, and see if it's been etched. You use a little pin very carefully to see if you can feel a bit of difference. And then it's judgment in the end. It's practice and judgment, experience.
That's great. Thank you very much. I think just another question that we've had coming in. I mean, because of the fine detail and the time, I think you know, are you quite a meticulous person? Is that what drew you to jewellery? What was it about, you know, the materials?
Well, it's interesting that, because actually I prefer making larger things, but I'm always driven by a challenge. So if somebody gives me a challenge, I will try and rise to it. And I've always said I don't like working with very small things, and I don't make rings, I don't make jewellery, but I do make small objects. And yeah, I like the challenge, and that's why I do it.
Well, I can see that with you know, going back with you know, the watering cans, there's very meticulous and small objects, and that's what I would call your work, kind of really lovely craft objects that have been, you know, lovingly made, and they're going to be here, you know, for a long time. Now, my final question, because I can see we're running out of time. Now, did you make that cake?
No, I'm hopeless at making cakes. No good at all.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoy a lovely slice of cake, or someone's going to be lovely receiving a lovely slice of cake today. Well, Whiskey, thank you so much for your time. It's been really lovely to get to know you and to get to know your work, but certainly, you know, the work that goes into your carousel, that's been you know, lovely to see, especially with, you know, with the candles, with the box, you know, with your book. Just lovely thought that's gone into that. So I think whoever receives that is very lucky. So once again, we say thank you, but also thank you to all of our attendees, and thank you for some of the questions that come in. I'm afraid we're running out of time now, but you know, do go over to Whiskey's profile. I've popped the link in the chat box, and there's also a little button that says live chat, so you can always go into Whiskey's live chat room. Don't panic if she's not there, leave the message and she can always reply back to you. Do go online. So thank you once again for joining us here at Handmade Chelsea Online today. And
Thank you very much.
Whiskey. Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.